You think being nice will make people value you, but what if I told you that your kindness is actually destroying your self-respect and turning you into an emotional doormat? The brutal truth is that every time you justify your choices to people who don't deserve explanations, you're teaching them that your decisions are up for debate. When you carry other people's problems like they're your own, you're basically announcing that your mental space is free real estate for anyone to dump their chaos into. Here's what nobody wants to admit about chronic people pleasers. The more you bend over backwards for others, the less they actually respect you. It's counterintuitive, but true, and today we're going to break down the 5 seemingly noble behaviors that are quietly eroding your self-worth and turning you into someone even you don't recognize anymore. Marcus Aurelius once wrote that we suffer more in imagination than reality, but what he didn't mention is how we suffer when we imagine everyone else's needs matter more than our own. You've been conditioned to believe that being considerate means being a pushover, that being helpful means being available 24/7, and that setting boundaries makes you selfish. The first behavior that's destroying your self-respect is over-justifying every single decision you make. Picture this: you decide to leave a party early because you're exhausted, but instead of just saying goodbye, you launch into a 10-minute explanation about your early morning tomorrow, your lack of sleep this week, and why you're not being antisocial. Sound familiar? Every time you over-explain yourself, you're essentially asking for permission to live your own life. You're treating your valid choices like they need a jury's approval. Seneca understood this when he said that every new thing excites the mind. But he also knew that not every excitement deserves your energy or explanation. When you justify basic decisions like what you eat, where you go, or how you spend your money, you're communicating that other people's opinions carry more weight than your own judgment. This creates a toxic dynamic where people feel entitled to question, audit, and critique your life choices because you've trained them to believe their input is not just welcome, but necessary. Have you ever noticed how people who constantly explain themselves get interrupted more often? It's because over-justification signals insecurity, and insecurity invites disrespect. The most respected people in your life probably make decisions confidently and don't feel the need to defend every choice to every person who asks. The second behavior is emotional load, carrying for people who never asked you to and frankly don't appreciate it. You know that friend who calls you every week to complain about the same relationship problems but never takes your advice? Or that family member who dumps their work stress on you like you're their unpaid therapist? Being supportive, but you're actually enabling their emotional dependency while draining your own reserves. Epictetus taught that we cannot control what happens to us, but we can control our responses in carrying someone else's emotional baggage is choosing to respond to problems that aren't even yours to solve. This isn't about lacking compassion, it's about recognizing that some people use your kindness as a crutch to avoid dealing with their own issues. When you consistently absorb other people's negative emotions, you're teaching them that you're a safe place to dump problems, but not someone worthy of reciprocal care and support. The third behavior that screams low self-worth is helping people who never return the favor. I'm talking about that colleague who always needs you to cover their shifts, but mysteriously can't help when you need time off. Or that friend who borrows money regularly but somehow never has cash. When you're short, you tell yourself that you help because you're a good person, and maybe that's partially true. But if you're honest, there's also a part of you that hopes your generosity will earn you appreciation, respect, and reciprocity. The harsh reality is that people who consistently take without giving back aren't grateful, they're entitled. Marcus Aurelius warned against expecting gratitude from others, because when we give with expectation, we're not really giving, we're making an investment and expecting returns. But some people are emotional black holes. They'll take everything you offer and still leave. You're feeling empty because takers don't transform into givers just because you model generosity. Are you starting to see the pattern here? Each of these behaviors stems from the same root belief that your worth comes from what you do for others rather than who you are as a person. Comment below if you've ever found yourself in any of these situations, because awareness is the first. Step 2. Change. The fourth behavior is apologizing for your existence. You say sorry when someone bumps into you, sorry for asking questions, sorry for taking up space, sorry for having needs, sorry for breathing too loudly. This isn't politeness, it's self-erasure, and it's teaching everyone around you that your presence is an inconvenience that requires an apology. When you apologize for things that don't warrant apologies, you diminish yourself in other people's eyes. You're essentially saying that your natural human behaviors, feelings, and needs are burdens that others shouldn't have to tolerate. This creates a dynamic where people expect you to minimize yourself to make them more comfortable. Seneca believed that a person's worth isn't determined by how small they can make themselves, but by how authentically they can show up in the world. Every unnecessary apology is a small act of self-betrayal that compounds over time until you're walking through life like you're sorry for existing. The fifth and perhaps most damaging behavior is seeking approval from people who don't even respect you. You know who I'm talking about, that critical family member who never has anything positive to say, but whose opinion somehow still matters to you. Or that social media connection whose validation you crave, even though they consistently make you feel small. You're literally giving away your power to people who don't value you, while ignoring the people who actually see your worth. It's like asking a colorblind person to judge a painting they literally don't have the capacity to appreciate what you're offering, but you keep presenting yourself for their evaluation anyway. The most insidious part about approval seeking is that it never ends. Even when you get the validation you're craving, it doesn't fill the void because external approval is like junk food for the soul. It provides a quick hit but leaves you hungry for more and more and more. Here's what happens when you start changing these behaviors, and trust me, this part is crucial. People will push back hard. The same individuals who benefited from your people-pleasing will suddenly have a lot to say about your new boundaries. They'll call you selfish, difficult, or changed. And they're right. You have changed. Their resistance isn't a sign that you're doing something wrong, it's proof that you're doing something right. Healthy people celebrate your growth, but people who were benefiting from your dysfunction will fight to keep you small. Their discomfort with your boundaries is not your responsibility to manage. This transformation isn't about becoming cold or uncaring. It's about recognizing that respect isn't something you earn through endless giving, it's something you command through self-respect. When you stop begging for scraps of appreciation through overgiving, you create space for genuine connections with people who value you for who you are, not what you do. The path forward requires you to get comfortable with disappointing people who have grown accustomed to your self-sacrifice. It means saying no without a dissertation explaining why. It means helping because you want to, not because you're afraid of being disliked. If you don't, Marcus Aurelius reminds us that very little is needed to make a happy life, and most of what we think we need from others, approval, validation, constant appreciation, are actually obstacles to genuine happiness and self-respect. Your worth isn't negotiable, and it definitely isn't dependent on other people's recognition of it. When you stop performing worthiness and start embodying it, everything changes. The right people will respect your boundaries, and the wrong people will reveal themselves by crossing them. Next week, I'm going to share 3 specific phrases that immediately shut down boundary violations without creating drama or conflict. These words have the power to transform how people treat you almost instantly, so make sure you're subscribed because you won't want to miss that video.